We talk a lot about how important it is to get feedback and communicate and all those things at work, right?
We sure do.
Sometimes that's not the best idea. And I don't mean in generally, but I mean specifically is being thoughtful in what you're asking for and maybe thinking a couple steps ahead of what that feedback might be. So this was sent in by a bestie who had said at their workplace, they had a webinar, and they had a webinar because they were all working remotely. And during this webinar, they announced that they were going to be having a return to the office in this workplace.
Oh, boo.
Boo. And there hadn't been a lot of discussion about that. So it's not one of those things where they're like, oh, we saw it coming. There's been this feedback. Like, it was pretty surprising. And also it was like not the first topic of the conversation. Like, it was topic 4. Like, it was like,
God. It's brushed under the rug.
Right. One of those that we've all kind of sat through, and you get it, but you also know. Anyway. But at the end of this, they said, okay, we want to try something. And so during it, they'd had like comments kind of suppressed, but they said at the end, we want to get feedback. So we're going to do this cool new tool that we have with IT called a word cloud. And so you can use your phone, your personal device. And we, from this meeting, we would love to hear your thoughts on the meeting and get your input. So people start scanning the QR code, they start typing things up, and so all of a sudden words stop appearing on the screen.
Oh, I know where this is going.
And they were saying, feel free to add it about any aspects of this, like the results, the company, the culture, like tag a buddy, tag all these things. No one was making things about that because they was all about return to office.
Yeah, fuck this shit.
Exactly. It was literally like a word cloud of exactly what, I mean, I don't want to just say HR, like anybody, my thing I've said in the past of some of the best, instead of just having like a big PR agency or things, the best thing sometimes you can do is ask like an executive assistant that's been there a while or a junior employee, like, how might this be received? And they would have told you exactly what appeared on screen, which was like disgusted, disappointment, horrified, like pissed, like
oh my gosh.
Penis. Oh,
That would be Jamie. Demotivated, like all of the things exactly. And this person's like, and then of course she's like, you can see people then on the screen trying to take a picture of the word cloud, and they're all like, they don't want to screenshot because they're like,
did she get one?
She did not, and I'm sure colleagues do, but they're afraid to. But they were like, it's exactly what you would think, and so
they're so dumb.
Quitting is the biggest word.
Yeah, quitting. Yeah. Look,
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yes. Someone said looking for a new job. Because they also had said beforehand, this is anonymous, so we're not going to be able to track who did what, who did what.
Oh, that's dangerous. I'd keep refreshing.
Right. So anyway, sometimes just knowing, asking for feedback is important, but maybe think about asking that in advance and anticipating it. But they got the message.
Oh my
That is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. That is some executive is like, I have this great idea. And no one in the room was like, I don't know how well that will be received with our previous message. Like, no one.
Well, that shows to me that leader, and that was a CEO leading that conversation, but probably does have a fear-based culture.
Good segue.
HR leaders, we all know this season brings more than just a change in weather. It's a chance for re-engagement. You might want to start with your managers. Many of them are under pressure to work harder than ever to reignite their teams, keep motivation high, and unblock performance. That's where PI for Managers comes in. With PI for Managers, leaders get the tools to drive truly meaningful meetings. Every one-on-one becomes actionable, powered by behavioral data that helps managers personalize their leadership style for each individual on their team. Struggling teams? PI helps managers upskill, coach, and remove roadblocks so employees can thrive. Building a new team? Hire with certainty using behavioral insights that align people to roles where they'll succeed. If you want your managers to lead with confidence and spark engagement that lasts all year, it's time to try PI for Managers. Learn more at trypi.com/managebetter, because when your managers succeed, your people succeed.
Hey, business owners, we know you know the importance of maximizing every dollar. With the Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business American Express card, you can make your expenses work just as hard as you. From afternoon coffee runs to stocking office supplies and even team dinners, you can earn miles on all your business expenses. Plus, you can earn 125,000 bonus miles for a limited time through October 29th. The Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business Card. If you travel, you know. Minimum spending requirements and terms apply. Offer ends October 29th, 2025.
That is an excellent segue, because that is the hot topic of this meeting. But first, quick rundown of the agenda. We always start with that hot goss. Thank you so much, Ashley. That is hot. Word clouds. Friend or foe? You tell me. Next up, some cringe corporate speak. Jamie's on the hook for that. And then that hot topic. Oh gosh, fear-based cultures, a culture of fear. Are you in one? Are you scared to speak up? Or, do you clench your ass when you have a one-on-one with your boss? I mean, all these things, right? Not necessarily professionalism. It could be fear, right? So we are going to turn that inside out, share some signs you may be in a fear-based culture and what to do about it. And then, as always, questions and comments at the end. Jamie, take it away.
Today's cringy corporate speak is don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
That is cringe.
Yeah.
That's cringe.
That's totally cringe, which basically means like avoidable error, maybe something of good value, but you get rid of everything else that's unwanted. So you don't want to obviously throw the baby out. So of course I had to look it up because I wanted to know where it came from. It derives from a German proverb from 1512.
What was it? Like a fable?
Wow.
Yeah. And it was basically, it's an illustration of a woman tossing a baby out with the wastewater. And it's a common catchphrase in German, basically meaning the same thing, like it's an error. I thought that was interesting. That one's like probably the oldest one we've had.
Assume. I mean, because I don't even think the Open the Kimono was dating back quite that time.
I don't think back that far. Yeah, I could be wrong, but
no, I don't think so. You know what that reminds me of is like, do you remember those kids songs? And I don't know if kids do this anymore. I bet they don't, because now kids have TikTok or whatever, all this stuff. Like they're listening to more like, where we would sing these nonsense songs like Miss Mary Mac and the Buttons on Her Back and things like that. But I remember the one where you do your hands, so like those listening to the podcast, like the hands up and down with a friend, and it would be like the rhyming thing. But I swear there was one about like a woman named Sue, and she had a baby. Like there was a baby in the bathtub, and it was like, Miss Sue. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't think I know this one.
Miss Susie had a
Susie.
baby. Da, 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 da.
Yes. Your name was Tiny Tim.
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah, it's coming by. Yeah.
Put him in the bathtub
To see if he can swim.
Don't do that. Susie needed supervision to see if he can swim. Miss Susie called the doctor. Miss Susie called the nurse. Susie called the lady with the alligator purse.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I remember it.
Core memories.
Yes, yeah.
That's some millennial misery shit right there.
Oh, that is. Wow.
Susie was like Amelia Bedelia on like, like something wasn't right. Someone was giving that woman supervision. She didn't deserve it.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, it's all flooding back. Now I'm thinking about all the, the things. Oh.
It's like a real meeting. Someone says something and your mind is elsewhere. Just like Besties today will say, throw out the baby with the bathwater, and just see if anybody in the meeting's like, remember that song from the 80s and
right?
Maybe 80s, 90s and today. We'll see.
Do you all say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater?
I don't think I've ever said it.
No. You?
I don't think I have either.
You thought about it, though. You paused.
No, because I've heard it. I was trying to think who I've heard it from. You know what I mean? I feel like Gen Xers. I've heard it from people 10, 15 years older than me, I want to say.
I've heard it. Same.
Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Do either. Like, just drain it. I mean.
Right. Oh, yeah, okay. Wasn't planning to. Poor baby. Oh, gosh. Thank you for that, Jamie. Cringe as hell. Now on to our hot topic today. Throwing babies out with bathwater is scary. But so are some cultures. Are you in a fear-based culture? Mm. Do you know? How would you know? What are some signs you all think of a fear-based culture? A culture of fear.
I do think the intro story is one where it's an example of there's a leader that's doing something and people around them know that it is not going to be well received and that ultimately it's going to lead to a lot of noise and churn and all of those things. But people are afraid to speak up because, whether you've seen things happen or you don't know what's going to happen, but you assume it's not, nobody wants to deliver a counterpoint. To me, that's one of the biggest ones of a fear-based culture.
Having just got out of one myself, it was very much that, I would have people approach me and be like, I'm scared to bring this up. I want to say something. I want to report it. I feel safe coming to you, but at the same time, I want to report it anonymously. It's just simple things too, that it really stifles culture.
Yeah. A culture of fear is one where there's just a lack of psychological safety, right? Instead, there's feelings of intimidation, anxiety, emotional suppression. People feel unsafe to be who they really are, to be genuine, to be open, to be communicative, to you name it, right? Oh, man. I have definitely worked in a number of fear-based cultures. But for me, those cultures, it wasn't necessarily people screaming or bullying. It wasn't necessarily hostile, right? It was all under the radar, kind of. I don't know how to put it, It looked like people feeling unsafe to ask questions. It was leaders that couldn't say, I don't know, so they just lied instead, right? It was people weaponizing information, their knowledge, withholding their expertise so they wouldn't be replaced, whatever, it's all these kind of passive aggressive behaviors. Those were like kind of some of the actions, right, that I saw, the behaviors that I saw in some of the cultures I've been in.
I think that really hits the nail on the head is the thought to just like any employee with any role in the organization, but say, if you had an opinion or an idea, who would you share it with? Would you share it? And if their answer is nobody, then that suggests other issues of the organization. But if it's, I might share it with a colleague. I'm not going to share it with my boss because they'll take credit. I'm not going to share it with my boss's boss because then they'll tell me everything that I did that was wrong. I'm not. And so in that fear-based environment, I think plays out in those. That's a really simple test. And so I think on the flip of that, if you're in an HR leadership position, is to think, do you hear the ideas and opinions from your team members? And why, if they're not sharing them, why might that not be? And again, like, who gets credit when someone shares an idea? How does that get communicated? And so I think in the newsletter, we'll include some of this for some of these ideas of how do you talk to your teams about, like, we want to hear your ideas. And when you do, this is how we give credit for them, because that proactive conversation, I think, can help a lot.
And that's what can make it so hard to leave, like a fear-based culture or a toxic workplace, right? Because a lot of times it isn't loud, it's abusive in another way, and there's a lot of gaslighting. And you question whether, was that a personal attack on me or am I overreacting? Because they said it with a smile, like, you know what I mean? It is just, like it's a mind fuck.
I think sometimes you don't even realize how bad it was until you are out of it too. Because even I'm thinking of my last 2 jobs and removing myself from that and then reflecting and being like, oh my God, what was I doing? Like, and you're scared to speak up. You're scared to speak your mind. You're scared to collaborate with people. You don't know who you can trust. I was like, it's like an episode of Survivor, and who's in alliance with who, and it's cutthroat. But once again, like I've said this before, but corporate's cutthroat for no reason. Like, there's no reason it should be cutthroat.
For real.
So October is here, and you know what that means: Halloween, which is my personal absolute favorite, but that also means costumes. And not just for the children, for my pups. Yep, all three of them. Biggie Smalls, Bluebell, and Biscuit. Yep. And Chewy always comes through with fast delivery, great deals, and everything all in one place. That's why they're my go to for making Halloween special for my pets. I never thought I'd find a Halloween costume that fits my thick, girly pit bull, Blue, but Chewy came through with the perfect size, and she makes the most adorable turtle. Chewy makes pets' health simple too. I can refill prescriptions, grab flea meds, even get advice, and now they're expanding to in person vet clinics. It feels like a whole support system for my pets. Summer might be over, but I've learned that fleas and ticks don't take a break, even for our indoor pets. That's why I get year round flea and tick protection from Chewy delivered right to my door. Chewy carries a wide range of vet recommended medications to help protect your pet in every season. And if I ever have question, whether it's about flea meds or anything else, Chewy's there 24/7. I've even called late night and someone picked up. And if something doesn't work out, I can return it. No questions asked. So this Halloween, make your pets a part of the celebration. Shop costumes, toys, and treats with Chewy. Go to chewpanions.chewy.com/HRBestiespod to get $20 off your first order. That's chewpanions.chewy.com/HRBestiespod to get $20 off your first order. chewpanions.chewy.com/HRBestiespod.
How do you top your love for your cat? With a cascade of decadent savory gravy over a mouth-watering mousse pate. Fancy Feast gems. 2 gourmet pâtés in one convenient pack. Simply peel and plate to reveal a pyramid shape that makes eating delightful and pamper her with an experience as extraordinary as she is. Turn the everyday into the extraordinary with Fancy Feast gems.
Jamie, let me ask you this. Let's say I'm coming to you as HR and I'm a manager, and you've been communicating about how important it is to motivate people, and I come to you and I say, well, Jamie, I have a different perspective and it's worked pretty well for me my whole career. And that is that I like to motivate with fear. I use fear as a motivator because I want my employees to respect me. And in the workplace, you can be all nice and fine and good, but it comes down to results, and I get those by fear. What do you say to that manager?
Well, I feel like you're just going to have that backfire on you eventually, right? One thing Leigh said is that psychological safety is like, I am a firm believer if you treat your employees well, your employees will effectively do a good job and want to do a good job and succeed for the company, but in their role too. So leading with fear is just you're creating almost micro environments of people then like that are forming alliances or withholding information or doing X amount of their job. I mean, I've seen it with my own eyes in companies that I've worked for where you alienate people and then ultimately those best employees leave because they identify it. And so you don't retain talent that way.
Yeah, that's one of the big costs of fear right there, attrition skyrocketing.
Yeah, because it's about, and a lot, sometimes it's focusing on those outcomes. Is people think about the short term, and one thing I think is helpful is to focus on, you might hit those goals today, but what are they going to do tomorrow? How are they going to show up for work? And if they were afraid, are they going to want to start getting their resume ready, and they've developed all these skills, and now this is another bullet point they can add to those. And so sometimes managers will say, okay, well, then that's fine, then I won't give opportunities, which again leads to some more conversation outcomes. Okay, well, then people won't be doing things. But Leigh, on the flip side, a lot of what you do is in your upcoming book plug is to think about individuals who are in those workplaces. And so if I'm not coming to you and asking you for specific individual advice, but I'm telling you I'm going to order your book and I'm all these things. But what would you say to someone that finds themselves in that environment? They ask themselves, like, yeah, I guess that's true. I'm not asking because I don't want to get ridiculed or have credit stolen. And all of those things are what I think would happen if I shared an idea.
Well, this is tough because like Jamie shared, you don't realize sometimes how bad it is. What I would say to those that are sitting there, or they're listening to this and they're asking themselves, God, I wonder if I'm in a culture of fear. I wonder if my workplace is really working for me. I think it's important to start having the conversations with others that you trust outside of your workplace, because oftentimes we go to work all day and we don't share anything that happens at work. We just endure it, right? We just take it in, internalize it. It becomes our new normal. But if you have kind of this gut feeling that something doesn't sit well, highly recommend talking to someone, a therapist, a friend, a neighbor, a stranger at the zoo. Like, I don't care. Like, but share one of your work stories that doesn't sit right with you, and watch their face. Right? Listen to the person that you tell that story to. And if they're like, ugh, like this horrified face, that could be a sign there that you may deserve more. But I'll tell you, just that gut feel, hey, I wonder if something's wrong. That means something's wrong, because you're physically feeling something that's not working for you. So trusting that gut, trusting yourself, that's a big part of it as well. Listening to yourself, having a check-in, right? How does this feel? We are always getting assessed. Like every year we get performance appraisals, but we don't get the opportunity, very few of us do, to review our employers. That doesn't mean you can't do that informally every frickin' day mentally, right? Asking yourself, how are they doing? How do I feel here? How does it feel to work here? I think that's important too, is to check in on that, because there's reciprocity in this employment relationship and you have power in it too. So I think, again, having honest conversations internally with yourself and with others, I think can help you at least recognize whether you're in a culture of fear or not.
The last thing I'll say is, and again, we mentioned our newsletter, so we always podcast, we love it. This is also a culmination of our work. And so our goal is to sit around and talk with each other and give tips and all of that. But also we do have that newsletter to help you take action. That's why in these conversations, it's like, what would you do? Some of this is giving you ideas. So one of the things I'll link in the newsletter, no affiliation, but I love the Harvard Business Review. It's so much more practical than I think you'd think. I subscribe to it. I find it a great resource. There's an article by Matt Higgins from RSE Ventures, who's also been a Shark Tank judge. It's about not letting fear hold you back, use it to push it forward. And I think one caveat to that is Leigh's point. And Leigh does a lot to people like, okay, if you're in fear, sometimes you have to figure out what to do in your own environment. Sometimes there's an exit. And so really being mindful of that you don't always have to stay in the container in which you are right now. A lot of what I do is to work with managers and is to not have a culture of fear and to recognize you're going to hear about things that happen, and a lot of what you do impacts the work that gets done and the experiences people have. And a lot of what Jamie does, I think, is bring like this levity, like real life experiences in a very humorous way. But so one of the resources I think from HBR that I'll send over was some of the tips, and it was 4 tips of what to do with fear. Make yourself indispensable, drive yourself to prepare, take a chance, and to find answers. And so I'll link that. But one of them I think is to prepare. That to me, that's the strongest of them, because all the time you're going to be afraid. I mean, I've had times in my life, I do something at work that seems silly. Like I'm jumping on a phone call with someone and I'm terrified. Like, generally not currently, but there's been plenty of times in my career. And I'm having all of the thoughts of like, this is so silly. Why am I so frustrated or worried? The number one thing you can often do when you feel out of control is to control and prepare. So think about things. Okay, what am I going to talk about? What could come up? And just map those for yourself. I'm going to see someone I haven't seen in a while. I'm going to map up four things I can talk to them about. It is not silly to overthink things. And over time, it'll feel more natural. Some of the preparation is, to Leigh's point, to think about your current environment and what you want your future to look like. But I do believe that a lot of what you can do in that fear-based environment to help yourself is to think about preparing and what that's like.
Mm-hmm. Because boy, the costs of fear are high. They really are. I've coached a lot of leaders on this because there's a lot of assholes out there. I mean, my God. And like we said, attrition, huge cost of a fear-based organization. But even worse is if people stay. Innovation dies, mistakes, rampant but hidden. Like if you are a leader that rules through fear, people aren't talking to you. You know very little information. And you're making critical business decisions off of very little because your people don't trust you. They're not coming to you. They're not innovating. They're hiding things. You name it. It is horrific. Bees, honey, people. Okay.
Yeah, like go ahead and throw that baby out with the bathwater then.
There you go. Just throw that baby out.
Jamie, you're the best. You're the best. You have so many skills. And the number one was you're on top of your cringe, girl.
Throw it out. May as well.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Voco Hotels by IHG, where you should prepare to be charmed. From Chicago to Myrtle Beach to Saranac Lake, each Voco in the U.S. has its own local flavor and unique detail. Our hosts welcome you with little extras, and you'll find rooms for catching up on me time and full-service bars and restaurants that are perfect for us time. Come on in and live the Voco life and book your next stay at vocohotels.com. VOCO hotels.com.
Shall we transition to some questions and comments? Close this meeting out. It's getting too scary. So much fear. Whee! I've got a question for y'all. Have you all ever worked in a fear-based culture? And just how did it feel?
Yes. I think I've said this once before, maybe on the pod, but when I really realized it was I was very, very sick. And I'm one of those people who will work when they're sick. Like I go into the office, I'll even wear a mask for you. And I'll stay sequestered, but I work. Like I'm not, but I was so sick, like it was vomit. Like it was something you can't be in the office for, vomit. And so I left early. And the next day I woke up and I was still like, it was like solid 12 hours of vomit. And so I called out. And yes, I was in pain. I was uncomfortable. But the thought of me missing work and knowing that they were probably talking shit about me, because that's what they did, I was more worried about that than missing like an email. Or it wasn't even about like my work. It was about what was being said about me. And that's when I knew. I literally the very next day, I didn't still feel that great, but I turned in my resignation because I knew it. I was like, that was my breaking point right there.
Oh, man. Like falling behind on the hot goss and, like the politics.
Yeah, because that's how it was there. This was where all the C-suite sat up above, on the second story. And,
Yeah. Got to have the special key card. Yeah.
Yep. The special key card to get in. Yep.
In the law firm environment, that's the whole fear-based environment because you're always afraid of doing things wrong. And there's expectations on responsiveness. And there's so much that. And I actually generally had a better experience, I think, in the law firms I worked at. But I remember thinking so specifically about what order I would put people on an email.
Oh, yeah.
Important that was, and afraid of like, does this, to the point of like, LinkedIn wasn't as big a thing then. If it was, I would have spent even a lot more time on LinkedIn looking at this, like, where does this person fall in the org chart? And so to me, that is a fear-based environment and not as like harmful things, but it was so much mental space that got taken up and it just makes you then feel so hierarchical. And so to me, that always stuck out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I absolutely have. And I remember just being really worried, like if I was going to be yelled at or screamed at. I mean, I've had some experiences. Like I was locked in a room once. What the fuck? I should have called the police. I mean, crazy, crazy shit, man. But I always knew, okay, yeah, this is a fear-based culture. This is scary. This isn't good. Because I would start feeling worthless. And I knew I wasn't. Nothing about me is worthless. But those environments have a way about them, It's insidious. And so that would be my core feeling. God, I feel worthless. What the fuck? Ugh. What do you got, ladies? Any questions, comments?
I have a quick story. I'll tell it really quick. This was at my last place of employment, which I know they listen to the pod. So, hey, guys.
Hey.
I specifically remember like the person that created this fearful environment came in towards the tail end when how long I had been there. And at first 6 months, nothing, no fear. And then all of a sudden it was there. But I specifically remember joining an all hands meeting that was for the specific group of people, our largest department, that they were having separately. And me being HR, I asked to join. Once again, because I have my finger on the culture, the pulse. And this department had asked a lot of questions in our main town hall, but they didn't want to answer them on the main town hall because there were so many. So they did a separate town hall. But instead of answering these anonymous questions that were asked, this person gets on and literally just starts yelling. You guys had all these questions. If you're not clear, you need to go to your leader. You know, we couldn't even have it. We had to have a separate town hall just to answer your question, which she never ended up answering any questions. But here I am, HR, camera off, mic off, and I'm like, these poor people. And they just had legitimate questions about things. And they're being yelled at from a senior top leader about questions they have? Like, no, a hard stop. Absolutely the fuck not.
That's an EEOC claim, but anyway. Ashley, close this out.
So I have a quote. So I mentioned this Harvard Business Review article by Matt Higgins. And in the section that talks about preparation, he's actually talking about Shark Tank and the first time that he was a guest judge on Shark Tank. And so Matt Higgins says that before he was a guest, he became obsessed with preparing. He watched every single one of the 200 episodes that had predecessed it with his son, which was like 800 investor pitches. He took all these notes. And then he was nervous about how he'd look because not only to the audience, but also he worked with all of these people. And so he bought this device that he would wear to make sure he didn't slouch. So he would he worked for a month, it would buzz him if he slouched. And so he did all these things to prepare. And so he said the night before, he was up all night. He walked in for the first investor pitch of the day. And Lori Grainer, who's a regular judge on Shark Tank, she turned to him. She put her hand on his forearm and she said, Matt, on a scale of 1 to 100, that was a 95. And nobody gets 100. In 10 years, no one has ever walked on a set like that and acted like they've been there since the first day. And so she gave him this reassurance, but also just knowing, sometimes giving people that bit of reassurance, but nobody's ever going to be 100 on the first try, and you're going to grow. And just like all of us, we look at our social media videos we posted, like, oh my God, I'm afraid to look at those because they look, drafts look it's a little sus, but just knowing you will be afraid. So have the levels of preparation. And so then when you see a colleague or a direct report or someone you don't even know, the stranger at the zoo, giving people that reassurance, you are doing great. That can be like water in the desert.
Water in the desert. Be water in the desert for somebody. I love that.